Thanks for joining. I'm here with Dr. Isaac Antwi, and he is going to tell us or help us through those of us that are not brainy or book smart or went through a few challenges and did not end up with a first class or a 2-1, but we still looking to get scholarships or find programs abroad that will be funded. He's going to help us with a few tips or a few tips here and there on how we can be able to further our education abroad. So without wasting much more time, thank you so much, Dr. Enchi, for accepting our invitation. You're such a lovely guy, and thank you for responding as soon as I said the invitation. You were ready to come on board, and I really appreciate that. So if you're new to this, it's changing the narrative, where we use our experiences and struggles to uplift others. And most, if not all, my guests all have stories to tell on what they've been through and how they used what they've been through to get to where they are now. So if you're listening to me, all hope is not lost. It can only get better so far as you don't give up. So we're here to uplift you. We're here to give you positive vibes. So we hope you do get a lot out of this. So, Dr. Ng, over to you. If you can give us a brief description or introduction to yourself, that would be great.
Well, thank you, Afua, and thanks for the invite. And I want to commend you for the excellent work you're doing. I think
Thank
I'm
you.
very grateful and for whatever you're doing, and giving me the opportunity to come to your show and then talk about the topic for today and to reach out to many people. So I think that's something I have to commend you for that. Like you said, I'm Isaac. I'm currently a research scientist working with a biotech company in San Diego, California. Background is in chemistry. I did my undergrad degree in chemistry from Ghana, University of Cape Coast to be specific, and completed in 2015. And as part of the national requirements, I did my national service as a teaching assistant at the same university. And I think it was around that time that the dream of pursuing graduate degree, came to pass. So I moved to Canada in 2016 for my PhD at University of Alberta. Worked, in the area of organic chemistry. Specifically, my research was into finding new antimicrobial compounds to address the growing challenge of, antibiotic resistance. And I just, moved to Yale for a postdoc, continue on the same kind of
Wow.
research, but using a different strategy. And then relocated back to Canada for my first industrial position as a research scientist with Northern RNA. And, just 1 year after that, I moved to my current position. Outside of my scientific career, I think for the past couple of years, I should say maybe 5, 6 years, I dedicated most of my time to mentoring people, helping people when it comes to graduate school, either through the application and also through the entire journey. And also help people, transition from academia into industry, and then, providing some tips and guidance to people. And that was where the whole idea of Career Enhancement Forum started, where we dedicated ourselves to reviewing statement of purpose, mentoring people, and then reviewing SOPs. And sometimes we go to the extent of helping people with, payment of application fees and service fee. We've been doing this
Wow.
for the past couple of years, and I think that's something I love to do, to see how best I can also contribute to the society. So I would say this is just a brief description of myself. I hope I was able to you know do it better.
Yeah, that's amazing. Wow, that's amazing. So we've got the best man here to answer our questions because it looks like you're already into that. So if you've got any questions as we're going on, kindly type it or ask it in the comment section, and we will be willing to ask Dr. Enchi for you. So, Dr. Enchi, today, right, we just want to talk about, you sound very brainy. That's why I kept smiling. Like, you're mentioning all these things that you've done, Yale and all. Kudos to you. So what of us, you know, that didn't do so well or started off well, but getting to the end, we didn't finish well. And so it's reflected in our grades. How do we how what chances what do we do? Let me put it that way. What do we do to sort of use this to our advantage to get these opportunities out there?
Well, I mean, I think this is a topic that has come up a couple of times, and in most of my shows that I've hosted, some professors and graduate admission committee, it's always a question that I ask them, and I think from my experience and from my interaction, the whole graduate school application, it's an entire package. The grades is just an aspect of it, and it's a critical aspect of it. But there are other aspects that are also considered when it comes to grad school application. And so people with what we describe as low GPA. I mean, I don't know how low it should be, but let's say mostly most graduate schools are expecting someone to have a 3.0 GPA for most graduate programs, and you fall below that threshold, it doesn't mean that you cannot qualify. So one of the things that I want to point out is when it comes to the consideration of graduate school, let's say, for example, someone is applying for a master's or PhD in chemistry, and even within the chemistry, there are other aspects of it. And the person had, let's say, a 2.1 or 2.5 CGPA in total. But if you look at the person's transcript, you could see that this is an individual who really did well in areas of chemistry. Perhaps did some
Mm,
other courses that didn't go well and had a total impact on his or her GPA. And I think admission committees are consider all those things and see, okay, well, this person wants to
okay.
read chemistry. We could see that this person was doing pretty well in his or her chemistry courses and was not doing well in some, let's say, liberal courses that most universities sometimes have. That can also be a value to you. And so even though your overall CGPA might not be as best as people might think, because of your excellent work in the area to which you want to pursue further studies, that can be an advantage to you. There are other things that admission committee can also consider, especially for those with lower CGPA, is that is the person's willingness to learn, and that can be
Mm,
demonstrated during
mm,
your statement of purpose. You can highlight some of the things that led to so-called non-performance in your grades, and use that as a leverage point to let the admission committee know that yes, even though I didn't perform excellent in some of these courses, I think my desire, my commitment to learn and take up further graduate program, it's been demonstrated in other aspects. Your research experience, maybe you had some research experience that you did that can also supplement your CGPA. You did some voluntary work during your studies, whether on campus or community service, that tells you took up some leadership role, because as you're going into studies and advancing, taking up leadership role becomes very critical. So all these things, I think,
mm,
are considered. It's not just a fixed thing that only GPA above 3.0 or nothing. There are flexibilities. There are various factors that are considered. Talk about recommendation letters. You can have your supervisors, your advisors writing a strong recommendation letter, assessing you, knowing who you are and your capabilities,
mm,
and putting that support that yes, this person's GPA might not be good, but I've known this person. I know his or her commitment to work. I know her desire. I know her wish and passion and commitment to doing graduate studies, and that can also be an added value. So I think that's what I would say for now. That yes, there are other factors that are being considered beside the GPA. The GPA is just a component of the entire package of graduate school application.
okay. Okay. So are there instances where people might have to sort of do a foundation course before they get accepted into a particular master's, or especially if the GPA has dropped and this application is specifically asking for these grades, because I know some of the eligibility criteria, it states it specifically or categorically that you have to have had a 2-1 and above. But you've just said or mentioned a whole lot of things that the applicant can say. So in this instance where it says it, would you advise this person to still apply for it,
Well, yeah,
or what can such a person do?
yeah. So I think the graduate school application is of many folds, right? Uh, we have research base, we have the course base, and each program
Mm,
have their own requirements. And for sure, in most programs, if not all, they will state the minimum requirements. The fact that a minimum requirement has been stated does not necessarily mean that nothing else can be done about it. And so, my advice is to approach this in this way. You always have the opportunity to reassess your chances. To reassess your chances means to either reach out to the graduate coordinator or the program coordinators, submit your academic transcript and say that, hey, these are my qualification. I intend to apply to this program. Based on this, do you think I will have a chance? Not that they will admit you, but is it still
mm,
something that, and admission advisors can advise and say that based on previous experience and their past acceptance rate, perhaps it can be a challenge. They might not say no, but they can give you your chances that, okay, historically we've had most of our applicants having this CGPA or not. So your chances of getting admission with this CGPA might be low, or oh no, it's okay, it doesn't matter, there are many factors that we consider, so just go ahead. So you don't want to
mm.
just sit behind because you don't meet just one aspect. And mind you, the GPA component is just one aspect of the requirements.
Ah,
So it's not just the only requirement. If it's the only
mhm,
requirement, then you want to question yourself as to, but there are many requirements, and that is just one out of, let's say, five or six. And so if you do not satisfy just one of the requirements, I wouldn't advise that, oh, just because you don't meet that GPA component of it, say, no, I won't. But you can approach it in a different way. You can inquire from the graduate coordinators. You can inquire from, international student service or the graduate students, whoever might be responsible, to find answers and to probe into. And
mm,
they can be of help too. And some of these schools also sometimes hold info sessions where they give students the opportunity. And I think it's one of the important things that people with low CGPA can always chance on. Go ask your question, interact, establish that network, and find out, because application fees are expensive. And so you want to make sure that you're
mhm.
putting your money in a place that where you think you have the high chance of being admitted. You don't want to be throwing 150, two
Yeah,
hundred dollars in places where for example, and you have to be real to
it won't
yourself.
fit.
Let's say you want to go to an Ivy
Mm,
League school and you have a very low CGPA. You just want to be very cautious of that, right? And so,
sure.
and one of the routes that you can, do, and I think one of the professors said and I think it makes sense that if you have a very low CGPA, you can go through the master's route and then use that as a leverage to go into the PhD, or look for a school that is not considered to be an Ivy League, or among the top whatever institutions within the country that you are interested, and use that to build that what you've lost, and then you can proceed to your PhD
Mm,
to a very prestigious institution. And so we have to admit that some schools requirements are heavier than the other. So you can do a search and look out for institutions
mm,
that you think that they are not very competitive, but also a very good place for you to get your graduate studies. And I think those are some of the things. But I wouldn't just say that because I don't meet, I would say no. I would approach it in a very different way, in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much for that. So you said the grade is 1 out of 6. Can you take us through the rest so that people can then, at least if you don't meet one criteria out of this or out of the 6, there's 5 to look forward to. So what are the other 5, and how do
Well,
the
yeah,
rest of us with low grade approach it?
I selected six as a number, but what I just wanted to make is one out of a certain requirement. So it can even be more than six, but
Okay,
we can still go through
right.
some of the requirements. Recommendation letter is
Yeah.
part of the requirements. Statement of purpose is part of the requirements.
Mm,
CV is part of the requirements. Sometimes you go through interview, one-on-one interview. It's also part of the requirement. Your past research experience, which sometimes might not be documented in your transcript, is it's also part of the requirement. Some voluntary work and your personal commitment
mm,
to it. So all of these, and even some schools also have or require you to have transcript evaluated, or might take some test score. So you might have people with low CGPA but also have good test score, let's say in GRE or GMAT or whatever test score that is being. So
mm,
the take home message is that yes, it would be nice if you have that good GP, and I think that's the goal of everybody who go to school. That, oh, I want to excel, I want to do well. But we all know that it doesn't always go the same. Many factors
mhm,
come into play, which are sometimes beyond our control, and stuff happen. But that is not the end. The fact that your CGPA is not good, it's not the end, and you can capitalize on these other requirements that are being listed. And so if you're putting your application and you know that, well, when it comes to the aspect of CGPA, I am below the minimum requirement, but recommendation letters can be strong. Your statement of purpose can be well written, crafted, and demonstrate that this is someone who is willing to. Your CV can be well crafted. If you have any research proposal that is part of the requirement, you can put out a very strong research proposal, and these can compensate for the losses that you had on your transcript.
wow. Thank you so much. So, if you've just joined us, this is Changing the Narrative, and we're having a conversation with Dr. Entry. So, he's going through a lot of things or a lot of alternatives that you can, focus on if you've got a low GDPA. And it's not the end of the world, like he said. And I do believe that because I know a few people that did not get a first, that did not get a 2-1, but they're doing really, really well in grad school and even PhD. So we're using this opportunity to encourage those of us out there that did not meet the grades because of so many things might have happened, especially in this world that we live in. There is a lot going on in people's personal lives that is affecting education and other things. So this is what we're talking about. Okay, so I'm gonna ask a question on the SOPs. Let's say something happened and you don't want to use it as an excuse, but how then do you sort of use it to your advantage for you to stand out? What sort of language, how do you write it, how do you include it in it?
Yeah, so the statement of purpose or statement of intent, I mean, and this is my personal view and from my experience reviewing others and also interacting with people. Most universities have their requirements. They sometimes specify what you want to feature or what they expect to have in your statement of intent. Some also leave it very blunt, and then you can write. Some also even have word limits, how much the word count that should be there, the number of pages, and so on and so forth. But all those aside, let's say you were in first year, you you came from, and most of our high schools are kind of segregated, that there are some people who coming from a very deprived area coming to compete with people who were, pretty much exposed, to our class A or class B kind of school system. And, coming from that background, you are already at a disadvantage. So
mm,
someone who went to, let's say, one of the best schools in Ghana, let's say Prempeh, and compared to someone who went to some school in my village somewhere, uh, obviously these are people who have different exposure
mhm,
coming to the university. And you could always tell, even on their high school or WASI certificate. So you come into a new system trying to get understanding of some of the concepts that you even didn't get, because mind you, the university is a build up of what we learn in our high school. And so if your high school concept wasn't so strong, your initial first year you will definitely struggle. It will require you to put in a lot. And a lot of us have, we're, coming from a first generation or kind of the first person in our family to, go to the university.
mhm,
It's not like you had
mhm,
some mentor or those. So those are things that you can leverage on and say, hey, you know what? I am coming from a family that I'm the first person to go to the university. I haven't even had any great exposure into this. And so taking this was, a biggest move to me. However, regardless of all those limitations, I never let it, take away what I have to do. And I did my best.
mm,
And you can highlight the progress. And so let's say your first year wasn't good, but you could see some kind of progress going forward. And that can be an
mhm,
aspect that you pointed out that, hey, I just have moved from, a very low grade high school, transition into the university, competing with all everybody. Uh, but you could see that, I have made a tremendous progress because it's about trajectory. Is this person showing some kind of progress? That can inform me. If I am an admission coordinator or decision making person, I will look at, okay, someone,
mm,
yes, the first year wasn't so great, but I could see a consistent trend of this person performing. That means this is someone who is demonstrating the willingness to always be better. And that can be highlighted in your statement of purpose. Or you started very well, but along the way, something happened. You could highlight on those things and say that, well, these were the genuine, realistic situations that I faced. I started very well, and it is demonstrated on my transcript, but along the way, A, B, C, D had happened. However, I have,
mm,
learned how to overcome and how to thrive in those challenging situations. I think it has prepared me to, go on a graduate studies program or take on a higher level education. And so all these things can be highlighted in your statement of purpose. And in your statement of purpose, to me, I think the message you want to communicate is that I am willing to learn. I am willing to take up challenge. I don't know, because if you already know, there's no point in going to grad study. So you don't have to feel bad if
mm,
you don't know certain things. You don't have to feel bad if there are some gaps in your, requirements or academic stuff. You want to demonstrate that you are willing to learn and that you have gained some minimum skills that you think had prepared you for graduate studies. And I think once you're able to demonstrate that through your writing, and let's say if you get opportunity for an interview, you still highlight those one. Admission committees look at those, key things and then see that yes, this is someone that I think is trainable, someone who can learn, who can,
mhm,
adapt
mhm,
quickly and then make progress. And I think that is something that in your statement of purpose you want to, but you also want to read the minimum requirement for that statement of purpose. So, like I said earlier, some schools have specific. They want you to talk about your past research experience, what has prepared you, and why you think. And if specific areas have been given to you, you don't want to read off from those ones. You want to stick to that. But if it's left open for you to write your statement of purpose, but I think then it is very necessary to tell what had been your past, what lessons you've learned, what skills you've acquired, and why you think you are so prepared and you are in the capacity to pursue graduate studies. And I think those ones can be highlighted in your statement of purpose.
wow, that's a lot of good information. Thanks for that. So, with all that you said, right? Um, would you advise or would you encourage some of us with the lower grades to take like a year off and use that year to sort of maybe acquire a new skill? Um, voluntary work, internships, just to sort of you, because you just said they're looking for people that are teachable, that still wants to try. Like their grades is not sort of put them down to not want to do better for themselves. So would you advise, is it something that you would encourage someone to do, even if it's not a year, like 6 months, to do, look for internship, voluntary work, leadership sort of roles? Would you advise that? And if yes, why? And if no, why not?
Well, I think yeah, that's a great question, and I think in our current state in Ghana, the national service kind of cater for that aspect, and I think that's why it's very to me it's very important for, and I
Mm,
always advise anybody that's doing the national service to me bring and some of these things that we're talking about, taking up some internship, getting some research experience can be obtained during that period or once you're out of school. So it wouldn't be a bad thing. And I think there are currently, system in place, which is the national service that allows anybody who feel like, okay, well, I want to go to grad school, I want to pursue a higher degree in this area. I think gaining some kind of experience in this aspect can help me. And so let me focus my attention on getting a national service in this area. So I use that as a leverage. So I mean, I want to say that in Ghana for now, I think anybody who think that adding those skills can help him or
mm,
her in his or her graduate school application, the national service strategy, it's a way to go. One of the
sure.
things, one of the many things that you can also do is that if you think that okay, I want to take some kind of break, and this can be personal, right? There are many situations and reasons why people want to take a break, not necessarily that they don't feel prepared, but they just want to make sure that the path to which they want to pursue is the right path for them. And if you think that you need some break to come to come to terms with your career trajectory and where you think you want
Mhm.
to go, I think it's perfectly fine. I mean, it's not always the case that after your BSc, you go to your master's, you go to your PhD.
Yes.
People go through some route and still gain that. So that's going through the direct, BSc masters has become the traditional way of academic progress. However, there are many areas that the skills that you acquire, especially those who go into mining and that kind of stuff. I have colleagues
Mm,
who, after their first degree, gain some level of industrial experience for 4 or 5 years. Later, thought that well, I think at this point I want to gain higher education. From and then pursued their master's degree. So it can be a personal decision, but whichever way that it is, the bottom line is will it add value to my graduate school application? Or will it even add value to my
mm,
personal development or career development? If it is so, if it is going to add value, I am not against anybody who wants to take a break, either a year or whatever, how long the person think, to gain any necessary skills or experience that he or she think will add value to his subsequent or her subsequent career path, being it in the academia. In this case, I think that's what we're talking about. If it will add value to it, there
mhm.
is that it's not a mistake to do at all. So I wouldn't say it is yes or no, but it's a personal decision, and it's about the circumstance to which you find yourself. And if it's adding value, if you
Yeah.
think that oh okay, well, even if I spend 5 years gaining this experience, it still will not add anything to it, then I think there's no point in doing that.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, if you've just joined us, welcome. We're still on the conversation of graduate school applications and studying abroad opportunities. If you've got any questions, please do ask it in the comment section, and I would read it out for Dr. Isaac to answer it. And also, if you know somebody that would benefit from this, please tell them to join. We are live on YouTube as well, so if they're not on LinkedIn, you can share the YouTube link. So Isaac Mensa, thank you so much for your question. Dr. Isaac, you guys have got the same name, Isaac. So, Isaac to Isaac, which of these options will you recommend for a prospective graduate student? One, direct PhD with the bachelor's, or two, pursue master's with the bachelor's and later do the PhD.
I think that's that's one of the questions you always get, and I think it's a great question. There is no correct or wrong answer to this question.
Mm,
It's something that you assess yourself. It's something that you have to know what you want to do. I didn't go through the master's route, and I had friends who went through the master's route and then later did their PhD. And so personally, I think if you as an individual see that, okay, PhD, it's something that you want to, and you meet the requirement and the opportunity is there, I would say that, well, go for it. It comes with some advantages, length or the number of years that you spent in grad school can be shortened by at least 1.5 or 2 years if you go through the direct route. But that doesn't mean that you have to do it, because it cuts short some of the number of years that you want to. It's about your career path. What do you want to do? Well,
mm,
I'm not so sure if I want to go to the PhD route. Let me apply for my master's. Along the way, well, I can get a sense of what career prospects are out there or what I want to do. And that is a best, it's a good decision. Well, I'm very certain that I want to get to the PhD. There is the opportunity there. Let me go for the PhD route. So, whichever route that you go through, it's not a bad decision. The end goal is that it meets your, career goals. It meets what you want to do. And
mm-hmm,
in most cases, the reason why, sometimes I advocate for, you know, people who want to go to the direct PhD when they have the opportunity, is that, especially in the STEM related field, there are a lot of funding opportunities for PhD compared to STEM. And so, if you are setting within yourself that the PhD is something that you think you want to do, and the opportunity comes, then I would say that, go for it and grab it. But I would say that it doesn't really matter whether you do your master's first and subsequently do your PhD, or you go through the direct PhD. I mean, as a matter of fact, even if you do your master's first, it kind of give you more exposure to the graduate school. And so going to do your PhD, I think, wouldn't be as tough as it is, especially those of us coming from Africa, where in our undergraduate days we don't get that exposure to some laboratory equipment or some practical things. If you move straight into the
mm-hmm.
PhD, it becomes very, very tedious. And I went through that myself. A lot of the equipment and instruments that I was going to use for my graduate studies, I had never seen some before. I have only read about it, but I was in a program with my colleagues who did their undergrad either in prestigious institution. They had used all this equipment during their undergrad days, and so you are coming to compete, and it doesn't matter where you are coming from, direct PhD. Once you're in the PhD, the expectation is that you perform as everybody. And so if you are someone and you assess yourself, you think, okay, well, I will still want to get some basic concept of it, then I want to do my master's, get myself very comfortable, and subsequently pursue a PhD. Many of the professors and many people that we had, the most people who are considered best within specific fields either went to the masters and subsequently did their PhD. And so, whichever route that you take, to me, I think it doesn't matter if that's what works best for you. It
That's
still
for you.
doesn't make any difference. Yeah.
Yeah, I get there's many routes to success. So whichever
Right.
one that you take depends on your circumstances and what you really choose to do. So yes, thank you, Isaac. I hope your question has been answered. So back to you, Dr. Isaac. Statement of purpose, right? I know a lot of people like really get scared about it. They get very frustrated about it. They get very anxious about it. So statement of purpose and um what's the other one? There's another essay. I don't know why it's gone out of my head.
It's
Um
CV or statement of intent or research
Yeah,
statement of
so
purpose.
these essays, let me put it that way, because every scholarship, every application asks you for different essays, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've read a few essays that I to give feedbacks, right? And some of them, as soon as I start, I'm not even the one giving them the scholarship, and I get bored. What is the worst that can happen if this happens on the grading board where people are actually looking at these things? Say they just picked it up and they're bored. Does it automatically disqualify this individual, or do they look at other things? I have a
Well, I
reason for asking. I'll come back to the rest of it.
well, I think we all have a different way of approaching, specific writing. I mean, what might be bored, to you might not be bored for
True,
to me, right?
true.
So it's hard to say that, the fact that, but in general, you want your statement of purpose to be something that the reader wants to find out more,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's why it's highly recommended to start with a positive note that the reader will just get interested in finding out what is going on. And so as to what determines, oh, this is boring to me, or this is, I think individually we read papers in a different way,
In a
and we
different way.
form our own perspective of what we are reading. But I would recommend that have multiple people review your writing, get that feedback. At least you have three, four, five people reviewing that same document. It is not likely that all those people will read it from the same lens. And so
The
you get
same.
the opportunity to incorporate all the feedbacks. Some of the feedback you might not agree. And you can always go back and then confront and ask the person, oh, you pointed out this is what I was thinking. And you can dialogue and then come to the conclusion. And then sometimes you might all be saying the same thing, but it just maybe the wording or how
The wedding.
it was put. So I think the best way to avoid that, oh, your statement of purpose or your writing sample might be considered as being broad, is to have multiple people and especially experts. So you can have maybe four people. Two of them can be your colleagues who will just be checking for grammar and that kind of stuff. And you can have people who have, reviewed multiple statements of purpose and have experience, who can give more constructive criticism of the flow, the structure, and all
Mm-hmm.
those kind of stuff. In that case, I think you increase your chance of making sure that your statement of purpose meet up to standard. But if you just write yourself, edit yourself, it doesn't matter the number of times you read through
You
yourself,
do
you will
it.
still
Yeah.
not have, right. And it's even in a high academic publications, there are papers that still get out published, and you take and you still find some errors, and that's the limitations of human. So, but at least multiple people reviewing your statement of purpose will make it meet that standard. And I think, to me, if there was any recommendation that I will, that just let as many people as you can review your statement of purpose for you, to eliminate your statement of purpose being considered as either boring or any kind of stuff. So yeah.
Right. Thank you for that. So on the same statement of purpose, right? Um, do you advise people to sort of, I know people that would rather like pay people to write it for them. And I get it. You might see it as a way to invest in yourself. So, okay, let me just put the question straight. Without a good um grade, or it's not even about good grade, without the strongest grade, which will even get you, I know people that got first and two ones that were also rejected, but then those with a lower grade, um got the scholarship. So would you say one wrote the statement of purpose can do this magic, or can actually be a part of someone with a 2-2 or a third, or even getting the cut than a person with a first or 2-1?
Well, I mean, it depends on the program. It depends on
Yeah.
the type of application that they received, right?
Mm,
And so there will be certain years that majority of people who apply to that particular program perhaps didn't have solid or excellent grade, and that's why sometimes you hear some of these stories that, oh, I had a low CGPA and I applied. Oh, I had a very high CGPA, I was not admitted, and so on and so forth. Each admission cycle comes with its own dynamics, right? There'll be particular years that a lot of people are coming in with a 4.0 CGPA. There'll be particular year that people are applying and the highest is probably maybe 3.5 or so. And so if you're applying within a year, that majority of the applicants are coming with a 4.0 and you are coming
mm,
with a 2 point something, then it means your chance of being admitted becomes very narrow. But if you are applying within a year where majority of their top applicants are within 3.0 maximum, then even if you have 2 point something, you're still within the first, maybe 40 or 50% chance of, getting admission. And so
yeah.
strong statement of purpose is recommended, but like CGPA alone is not enough to get you admission. A strong CGPA, a strong statement of purpose alone is not enough to get it's the
It's
entire
not enough.
package, right? So you
Mm,
you can leverage on the fact that your CGPA is not good and have a strong statement of purpose, but that does not automatically guarantee that, oh, someone applied with a very strong CGPA, his or her statement of purpose wasn't so great. The admission committee will want to consider or want to look into what do we want? What is it so special about this statement of purpose? Is it just the writing or is it just how it is? They will consider a lot of factors, but it's always
mm,
good to put out the best out of it. I mean, it doesn't matter, right? It's always good to put out the best writing sample, your best CV, your best everything, whatever best that you can present. It's always the best to put it out there, and you
to
know,
put it out. Mm,
let the decision makers take a decision on that. But at least you know that you did you submitted the best that you can produce, and to me, I think that's very very critical because you cannot
yeah.
force the decision on these people. But if you submit your best and they view it in a different angle and you are lucky, then so be it.
Sure.
It also
So
doesn't
I guess
mean that the fact that you are rejected doesn't mean that your requirement or your writing was bad. It's perhaps because
was bad.
there are a lot of people, even in job application, you get rejected, and it's not just because you didn't meet the requirement but you are competing with other people. And I want to touch on the aspect
Mm-hmm.
of the people paying and writing. I know you wanted to bring that one up, but I think I highly discourage that no matter how
Thank you.
bad your writing is, put out samples. I mean, we currently living in an era where technologies, I wouldn't encourage you to write from scratch with an AI, but have your sample written, have it reviewed, and then if you want, a AI assisted tool to kind of give feedback and help polish it. Because at the end, the graduate school process is going to be about writing. You're going to be writing papers, you're going to be writing proposals, and those kind of stuff. And so, if you are
Mm-hmm.
paying for your statement of purpose to be written for, then it might be as well that you are not ready for grad school and you don't want to put yourself in that. So if you're out there, please, I know, yes, writing is hard, it's difficult. Even professors still struggle to write. And it is a technique you learn. You don't just wake up and become good at writing. Constantly writing, people reviewing and giving you feedback. And oh, okay, I wrote this the last time. This was the feedback. Okay, so next time if I'm writing, I know how to. That's how you improve upon your writing skills. So please don't pay. I mean, it's different from reaching out to, hey, Isaac, I have my statement of purpose. Can you review it for me? That's different. But reaching out to me that, hey, Isaac, can you write my statement of purpose for you, for me? And then that's to me, I think it's unethical, and I wouldn't encourage anybody to do that.
Yes, thank you very much. I mean, I know there are a lot of desperate people there. A lot of people have been scammed as well, where, this, if they had written it themselves, it probably would have been better because
Right.
yeah. But that's a conversation for later on. So I've got another question from Clement. So it looks like Clement, your question is you're struggling to get funding and now you don't know what to do. That's what I can get from the question. So he's got an admission without funding. All inquiries about funding seems not working. What should I do? I'll leave you to answer that, Dr. Isaac.
Yeah, I think that's a tough situation, and it's some, yeah. I mostly almost on a daily basis I get messages of that result. People send me the admission letters and with that funding, and it's hard because the only way is to perhaps reach out to the university, find out if they have teaching assistantships, which I know a lot of time people do, and they say, well, we don't have funding. And that is why I always tell my mentees and people who I mentor and who come to some of my shows is that before submitting any application, be sure about the funding situation, because as international
Funding.
students we cannot afford the fees. I mean, well, some people do have money to afford, but I
Expensive.
always tell people that make sure that whatever program that you are applying to, you are sure that once admitted there is going to be a funding opportunity for you before you put in. And if that is not made clear on the university's or department website, reach out to the program coordinators and ask, because you don't want to put out $150, get admission. And in most cases, schools that do not provide funding, getting admission becomes easier because after all, you are going to pay, right? And so
Mm,
why waste $150 when a simple email inquiry could have saved you $150, which you could have channeled it into, a different application. So yeah, I understand the situation. The best is to either reach out to them and reach out to every opportunity, and if not, maybe defer the program and see. Sometimes there are certain admission year that most profs do not have funding, but in the subsequent semester or admission year, space become available. So he or she can find out and say, okay, well, I'm not getting funding. I want to defer my program and see maybe for the next admission cycle, the funding might be. And during that time, you want to perhaps establish some network with some professors and let them know that you are interested in
mm,
joining their research group or being, a student in their lab or group. You don't have funding, you have admission, but if funding becomes available for next year or next semester, you'll be willing if they can consider you. So that can be an alternative. Other than that, I know people talk about some loans and other stuff, which I'm not an
no.
expert in that, and so I highly don't talk about that. But other than, I would say,
Yeah.
just reach out to the program coordinators, find out any alternative scholarship that's available, and if none prevail, defer your program and see what's the following academic year. But don't also just wait on that. Look out for other institutions that you'll be
Other.
setting of funding and then put in other applications as well.
Yeah. So just a little bit on that. Before you even, I always tell people, do not rush the process. Before you even, do the application, make sure that the university has like grants, internal funding, because the thing is they're looking for international students because the fees is huge, and these universities need this money to keep the school going. So sometimes these institutions, there's a lot of international students, and I would not advise anybody to take a student loan from as an international student. I am a home student, and that fees, man, you don't want to be in debt after school. You do not want it. I mean, and I would not encourage anybody, especially international students, because it can give you a headache, especially when you
Yeah.
finish and you're not guaranteed a job that will help you fund that loan, because chances are you end up accruing more interest, and you do not want that. So I like Dr. Isaac has said, we're not experts, but from my personal home student, I, I wish dad and mom were rich to just pay my fees off, because I'm not enjoying it right now paying for it. So on CVs, a quick one. So concerning CV for admission, is it a general work CV or academic CV? That was going to be my next touch, because I've seen some crazy CVs with people's marital status and stuff on it. So Dr. Isaac, if you can help us with that, please.
Well, I think the academic CVs differ from the job sometimes we call resume, right? So, a lot of times people kind of confuse. A CV, it's mostly a detailed kind of accomplishment. Resume, it's mostly a summary of
Mm.
what you've done. But I don't generally expect someone with a bachelor's degree to have a very lengthy kind of CV. I mean, you haven't done much apart from 4 years of being and maybe some voluntary work. But I think you just want your CV, in my personal view, to feature just your qualifications, the skills that you've accomplished or you've acquired, as if you have any publication, if you have any voluntary work that you've done, and those basic stuff, uh marital status and those kind of stuff. I don't I know people, it came up sometimes, but I don't think it's something you want to put it on your CV. And even your age, I don't think you want to put it on, but you just want to feature, you know I have this Bachelor of Science degree from this university from this year to this year. During that time, I did this particular research. Sometimes you can even list the courses that you have done, because it's very critical, especially those if you are moving away from one field to the other. You might want to let them know that, well, though I have taken these courses, right, and I think it has prepared me for that. And I did this particular research. These are the skills that I used. These are some of the publications. These are the community voluntary work or stuff that I have done. And sometimes you might want to have your resume, your references on it, or you can just say will be provided when needed, or that kind of stuff.
Mm.
Either way, it's fine. But I don't think when I was putting my CV together in 2015, I don't think I had more than 2 pages of something, because
Mm.
what apart from the school, my project work in the courses and some either leadership skills that I took upon, I don't think it's you just I think you might want to spend more time on the formatting, because that speaks a lot, right? You want to make sure your CV is well formatted. The font size are in order. The spacing, those little things. I think it tells a lot to the admission committee that this is someone who pays a lot attention to details, and rather than having
Mm.
5 page of CV with so many of the unnecessary stuff, you can have a limited CV, well formatted and well crafted, which to me I think will be my preference than having many words or many, most at times irrelevant, I should say, stuff on your CV, which is not even well
Maybe.
formatted. Sometimes you're using bullet points, sometimes you're using numbering, you're using Roman numerals for it becomes all
Mm.
over. And so pay attention to the details. And I don't think that uh, any admission committee member will expect someone who had just finished his or her bachelor's degree to have a very lengthy CV for application.
TV. Yeah. So I know you're looking to go to your next meeting. So I'm just gonna read you um questions and then we can wrap up. So
Yes.
Soji had sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, but I've tried. Soji. So graduate of industrial chemistry with a CGPA of 3.42. I've been finding it difficult to get admission. Okay, so this is actually even getting admission due to problem of getting a supervisor. Most of these supervisors want 2-1 graduate. In this situation, what do I do? Secondly, what can I do to improve my chances of getting a scholarship?
Well, I mean, you know, and I always say this: scholarship to me, I see it in a different way. Uh, a, a lot of times when people reach out to me, oh, I want to get scholarship, I ask them, what do you mean by scholarship? Because
Mm,
most people are talking about applying to, let's say, the Queen Elizabeth or Commonwealth scholarship and so on. But most of the graduate program, which I mostly I like to call them funding, stipend, or whatever, are coming from mostly in two sources: from the Department or from the research grant of your supervisor. So these are mostly the two, especially for the research-based program. And she being in industrial chemistry, she definitely fall within this category. Now, the GTA is a graduate teaching assistantship where a graduate student is hired as a teaching assistant, being paid by the department for her duties or his duties as a teaching assistant. And then they deduct your tuition from that stipend. The rest come to you as your monthly salary. Now, the other one is the GRE, the graduate research assistant, where sometimes, in most cases, it comes from the research grant of your supervisor. So, in my case, for example, every fall and summer, fall and winter, I was on a GTA funding, the graduate teaching assistant, because I was doing teaching duties.
Mm.
But spring and then summer, I was on a GRFA, the graduate research fellowship, as a because I wasn't doing teaching duties and I was being paid by my supervisor directly from his or his research grants. So, in getting to answer her question, I would say that. Uh, Looking specifically for an external scholarship, I am really not much into that because I haven't gone into that route. But apply to universities that provide either a GTA or a GRE. And most cases, it's automatic. Once you are admitted, it
Mm-hmm.
comes with it.
It comes
So
with it.
that would be my recommendation. Yes, and if it's becoming a challenge. And I earlier stated on sometimes getting MSc funding is tough. And if she thinks that, oh, she had the desire for a PhD and can pursue a PhD, it increases the person's chance of funding because trust me, let's say most MSc are 2 3 years. First year you might be
Mm-hmm.
taking courses. Your second year you now start research lab, and so by the time you get comfortable with research, you'll be almost about graduating. So most profs would genuinely want to have PhD students where they will have more time to write and publish because your publications and your research is what brings this grants. But if just 2 years you are living out, that's why funding for masters it's sometimes challenging compared to
Yeah,
a PhD. So
PhD.
she can also look into that route if that's something that she wants. But I would say that she should keep just trying.
Okay. I do respect your time, so I think instead of asking another question, just so we don't eat into your time, we're gonna wrap up. And whenever you're free to come for a part two, we're always welcome, and we can,
Yes, I have somebody
find time and
I can recommend so you reach out and he's actually helping
please
and
do.
contributing to
Okay, that's
answering some of
good.
the question. Blessings, Juma man. He has been, friend of mine who always hop on my shows and has always been
Okay.
providing very constructive. So and I'm very sure he'll be very happy to come share because he also will have a different perspective his route
Yeah.
might be. So you can reach out to Blessing.
Mm.
He's answering a lot of the questions in the chat. I can
Okay,
see
please
here. So
watch out for my inbox because I'm gonna be hitting your DM very soon so that we can, because this has been a lot of questions that people ask, and there's not one cap fits all. Sometimes I have to like ask more questions about this particular person. I have to go and research and ask people like yourself and others that are well invested in this area to try and see how best we can reach. So yes, it's not one cap fits all, and we can't use 1 hour to answer and give everybody a lot of details. But thank you so much, Dr. Isaac. I don't know if he's ready now. I could actually send you the link. Please say yes or no in the chat.
yeah, I mean, if
Um,
Blessing
Dr.
is
Blessings,
ready,
yeah,
yeah,
and then we
we could.
can actually just continue this conversation for another 30 minutes to answer all the questions. So Dr. Blessing, if you can say yes or no, then I'll send you a link to join me. So Dr. Isaac, thank you. I don't want you to be late for your next one. Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. So I'm gonna love you and leave you, or you love us and leave us whilst we
Thank
stay
you
here for
so
a
much,
little bit
Afia,
to
for
go through. Yeah,
putting this together and inviting me. I think you are
thank
doing a
you.
great work, and I commend you for that. I say that keep on doing this
Thank
great
you
work.
so much.
You are impacting many. Some of these things that we do goes a long way to help many people, and I'm always happy to come back again. And I'm sorry,
Sure.
I have to leave. I
That's
have
fine.
another appointment. My entire
Yeah.
and then there's Grassac USA also has invited me to So
Okay.
almost like my entire day is booked. But I think
It's booked.
Blessing and other colleagues will be very happy to. But anytime that you think my services will be needed, feel free to reach out, and then we can always schedule and talk more about this. But I really appreciate the opportunity, and
Sure.
thanks to all the audience. And I hope that you benefited from this. I hope so. But we'll keep sharing the message, and we'll keep spreading the good news and helping people. So take care.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, and enjoy your next event.
Thank you.
Yeah. So bye. Dr. Blessing, I've sent you an invite. If you're free, you can join me now. But I'm just going to use this opportunity to go through a few of the questions and see how best I can answer them. But yeah, Dr. Blessing, I've sent you the link. If you can join me, that would be great. Oh, I've got Enoch as well. Please do join me because the sometimes I don't like leaving halfway with a lot of questions not being answered. So yes, I'm going to send you the link to me so that we can continue answering these questions. Um, so yes, as I'm sending the links, so CVs. I think that we need another program to talk about CVs. They are important, and it has to be well structured because a lot of the time, um, it's just like having looking for a job. I've realized some people do not know the difference between resume and CV. So, like Dr. Isaac was saying, CVs are more detailed, and resume is more tailored to whatever that is being asked. So it's very compact with the necessary information in it, that would help you with either the job or the application, either masters or PhD that you're doing. Um, I will send sample if you need samples. Actually, if you need samples of academic CVs, DM me. I'll send you some samples, and then you can have a look, and then you can tell which one, or it will help you with your layout, how it should look like. The fonts are very important. There's a lot of things that you shouldn't ignore in your academic CVs. Um, what was the other question? So Dr. Enoch and Dr. Blessing, I've sent you the links. So if you're available, you can join me. Okay, Dr. Blessing is currently at work. That's fine. Dr. Isaac, I mean Enoch, I've sent you the link in your DM. So if you're available, you can join me. I think there was a question about a PhD and masters, but I can't see the question, but I can see Dr. Blessing trying to answer it. I don't know. Okay, I think I've got Enoch with me. Thank you so much. We couldn't do a lot last week, but here we are again this week. So welcome, Dr. Enoch.
Thank you very
Great to have live here.
thank you. This is the first time I'm joining a
Yeah.
live stream and it's exciting to be here. I didn't
Yes.
know you were hosting. I saw the notification with Dr. Antwi, but I joined late. But I got a good part of it. So yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks a
So
lot.
we're talking about, I think, let's take it from here. Let's take it from here because I know you're well versed in the SOPs, the recommend the and how people get selected. So I've been having a lot of questions about people with low GDPs and GPAs. Why am I saying GDP? GPAs, and they're worried because the two ones and the first are getting scholarships, but I know it's not the end of the world because I also know people with first and two ones that were rejected, and two twos and thirds are getting it. So this is a way to sort of give an encouragement to those in that sort of scenario, and how we can best help them tailor or take advantage of their low GPAs, they can use that as a stepping stone, to know and change the narrative out there that you can still get it. But then again, how do we do it? What can they do to improve? What can they do to stand the chance? So that's what we're talking about.
Okay.
If you have anything to add, that would be amazing, so that I can go through the comments and see which questions we've not answered.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me. And so it, it depends on so many things, and I want to encourage everybody that is trying to get into grad school or applying to any specific program. Yes, your GPA is very important. It's important. But what I will tell you is that first you have to look at yourself and say to yourself, look at yourself and say, okay, so if you have a low GPA, to me, if you have a low GPA and you still want to get into grad school, there is something inside of you that's driving you. Now, that means that you're very passionate about something. So if I'm reviewing an application and I see your application, right? And I'm looking at it, and the first thing I see is a GPA. Naturally, people with low GPA would probably not even continue their education anymore, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm done. I went to
Mm,
undergrad. I didn't do pretty well. School is done for me. But if there's a desire in you that you still believe that you can do this, if you can, your GPA in undergrad is very low, and you still think you can do it, there's something in you. So that's a good way to start.
mhm,
Now, when it comes to the admission process itself, there are so many criteria that are used. Universities, PhDs, we don't care about honestly, we don't care about your GPA. I have been on an admission committee before. My PI in grad school used to interview students for our PhD program, and I used to sit on a committee. There are so many things that we look at. I'm going to be very honest. The last thing I cared about was a GPA when I was reviewing applications. Yeah.
mm,
The last thing I looked at was a GPA because, and especially for international students, I went to school a little bit in Ghana. I did my undergrad, civil engineering in Ken UST. And it's hard to get a specific GPA. Our classes there are very tough. The other thing too is that people here don't understand our GPA system back home, right? They don't really get it.
mhm,
So when I see an international student applying, your GPA doesn't really kind of like matter at all. What we pay attention to, or what I care, is the way your statement of purpose is written. We want to see that passion in there. Where is the passion? Like, why do you want to do this? What is driving you to do that? Because people make, when you get into undergrad, you're very young. You're young at a specific age. So certain things you don't care. You don't. By the time you realize that you have to take this school serious, it may be too late to improve your GPA, right? So first year in undergrad, you're having fun. You're just taking things slowly. By the time you realize that, oh crap, I have to improve my GPA, it may be too late to get a specific GPA. But you've matured, right? So even though you might graduate with a low GPA in a master's program, a PhD program, you've learned your mistake. You are about to become a better person.
mm,
So I personally have never paid attention to someone's GPA. Honestly, I really, if you have a 4.0 GPA, good. But I'm not going to say I'm going to choose someone with a 2.1 GPA or 2.5 GPA or someone with a 4.8 GPA. What I will look at is, where is your passion? How did you formulate your SOP? Okay. What other things have you done to complement your GPA? Okay. Did you inquire about our program? Did you send us an email to say, hey, I'm interested in your program, trying to see what you guys do. I've seen this project that you guys do, and I'm kind of like interested in it. Like those kind of things. Because I have been in a position where there are courses that I didn't like. And for that reason, my GPA was low
mm,
at a specific point in time, right? So I would tell people, do not focus so much about your GPA. You don't know what criteria these universities are using to admit people. I don't know if you guys heard recently about the whole thing with the affirmative action at Harvard and all these Ivy League institutions in the US. They use different criteria. What other skill sets do you have? Okay. So
you bring, yeah.
if you have the passion to do something, you want to do it, put in the work. Just write your essay, write your SOP, put your materials together, make sure you hit all the requirements that the university, and just submit it. You've done your best, and then the university will decide from there.
Mm. So I've got this question for you. Thank you so much. So again, if you're listening in, do not let that, you know, put you down that you can't get it. There's so many ways, and we're gonna do this as a whole event. I think with that one, I'll bring two guests. I think Enoch and Dr. Blessing will volunteered. I'll be hitting your DMs very soon, so we can have this question again. So what I had with Dr. Isaac, this was not the plan. It's just because during the week, like couple of weeks now leading to this, I had it. I was having loads of questions because I think some people just graduated,
Yeah.
and hence why there's so many questions around that side. So James is asking how well narratives. I'm particularly concerned about how well narratives should be crafted when applying for scholarships. I'm asking because the school I applied to asked further questions on work experience and volunteering free work. How relevant is it to highlight that on your CV? Very relevant, but I'll leave Dr. Enoch to answer that.
Okay. Um, like I said, every university is different, right? Every university is different.
Mm,
Every department have different criteria for admitting students. Now, I can speak specifically for the department that I work for, the PIs that I have worked for, the admission officers that I've helped to recruit students. Yes, it depends on the program. As when you're going to STEM programs, I don't think volunteering really kind of like have an impact on us unless you volunteered in a program that is related to what you want to study, right? So let's say you're trying to get into like a petrochemical PhD program or mechanical engineering. You volunteering at Boys and Girls Club doesn't really add any value to your CV, right? However, if you want to study child psychology or you want to study behavioral science, and you say in your CV you highlighted that you volunteered at Boys and Girls Club helping children, that will have a huge impact on your application process. That means that
mm,
you've contributed, you've been in that field a little bit, you've had experience with children, right? So you want to add the things that are related to what you want to study. Okay. If you volunteered at the drilling company, just go there and shadow an engineer and you put on your in your CV. That's a great because at least you've seen the whole process, right? You volunteer those kind of things. So yes, volunteering is important, but it has to be related to the field. I haven't personally haven't seen any STEM program that specifically asks. The fact that I haven't seen it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Let me make that clear. That asks for volunteering experience and stuff like that. And usually, when a university asks those kind of things, people are going to lie because if it's a requirement and they are telling
mm,
students, what's your volunteering experience? That means that you are telling the person that we need this from you. So even if the person hasn't done it,
right.
they will put it in there, right? So it's it's some kind of way. It's if you have the experience, if you have an experience that is related to what you want to study, put it in there. If it's not related, I'll say take it off because we have like multiple
Mm-hmm,
students that we have to
mm-hmm,
screen,
mm-hmm.
multiple students that we have to go through. If I'm reading your application, I'm looking at things that will catch my eye. I will read everything. I'm not the kind of person when I was reading a review application. I don't know what my boss made me do because at the time I was a student and I don't know why he made me review applications for prospective students. But you want to, I want to see the things that are related to what you do. I'm not going to
To
penalize
what
all.
you, yeah.
I'm not going to penalize somebody for putting something that is not related to what they want to do, but it's just a waste of the reviewer's time. I think I'm a very kind person, so I will consider it. But some people will be like, nah, I don't need this, So
Mm,
make it succinct, put a point out there clearly, and yes, they just leave the rest to the admission officers. Don't
yeah.
stress yourself too much about the process. Don't.
Mm. I think it's the same as applying for a job, where sometimes you have to take some of your experiences out because it does not relate to the job that you're getting into or you're going.
Right.
And I keep telling people that there was a time someone asked me, what would I tell the 25-year-old me? And I said, you know what? The 25-year-old me, what I'll tell that person is, or if I'm to meet her, is if you really know exactly what you want to do, start.
Yes.
If you fail, you fail, but at
Yeah.
least you've started it, and it goes a long way. Because things that I put on hold, I'm now trying to play catch up, and I wish I had started it and at least gone through the pain and the failures earlier on than now. I mean, the worst that can happen is you fail, and then what? You learn from it.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
worst that can happen is a no, and then what? You learn from it. So if you're in your 20s, this is the best time to make mistakes. This is the best time to go for opportunities. This is the best time to create and change narratives for you and the next generation. So what we're trying to say here is, even if your GPA is not great, there are other criteria that they're looking for in this application that you're doing, be it in the area of study or the scholarship, because those two are two different applications, especially if you're looking for external scholarships. Some universities, when they give you an opening, especially with PhDs, you automatically get enrolled in certain scholarships and that. So you're not really, there's not a lot to do on that side. So if you know exactly what you want to do, look for those opportunities there. If they're not there, create it. Even if you get one person, if you change one thing, it is your success. It's the beginning of your success story.
Yeah.
Don't wait for somebody to create the opportunity and then you get in. Start creating the opportunities for yourself, no matter how small it is. So yeah, that's what I would want to add to it. I've got a
In,
question for you, from Maxwell. So
yeah.
he's gotten an admission for a PhD in maths, and he's trying to get since 3 weeks now. However, I was informed a separate letter regarding my scholarship will come, but till date, I have not heard from them. I have sent some emails, what yet to receive a response. What should I do?
One question that I will ask him is, first of all, he said he got a PhD in mathematics, in PhD in math,
No,
right?
he's applied. I have
Applied
gotten admission for a PhD in maths
in
education
math,
at
mathematics.
Texas University. Yeah,
Texas University.
yeah.
Okay, but there's no
So he
funding.
was informed of a no, he was informed of a separate letter regarding his scholarship, but the letter hasn't come through, and it's been 3 weeks, and he's not getting any response. So what should he do?
Okay, um, good question. Remain calm. The system in the US is very programmed. Okay, once they've given the admission, they are working on it.
Hmm.
Okay, now scholarship, like Dr. Antwi mentioned, we don't call it scholarship here. It's not a scholarship, unless you are talking about scholarship from an outside institution. If you're talking about a university, we call it funding, right?
Funding.
Scholarship is mostly something that related to your program. It's like the Bill Gates Foundation and these organizations that those what we call scholarships. So it kind of like sounded a little confusing to us in the states when
Okay.
scholarship. But if you're talking about those scholarship like from an external organization, then I will talk about that to begin with. But if it has to do with the university, if you're talking about funding from the university, I can tell you exactly what is happening. So there are two systems here in the states. There are the private institutions and then the public and the state institutions. Now, most private, for example, Columbia, where I am now doing my postdoc, when you get admitted into the PhD program, you don't have to be a teaching assistant. You're covered, right? Because the university has so much money, the labs
Mhm.
have money, and ready to go. You don't have to be a TA because some of the PhDs in my lab, they TA. All they have to do is take classes and come to the lab, right? So that means that the university has money. They have, money to fund students to come in and study. In that case, you're good. Once you get admission, everything is sorted out. Then there are the other institutions, the state institutions that don't have a lot of money. They don't have a lot of funding. They do, money is there. Don't get me wrong. The money is there, but they have it's budgeted. They know how many students they can admit at a time. So, for example, where I was at Purdue doing my PhD, the College of Pharmacy, the number of PhD students that they admit in a year depends on how much budget the college gets and how many teaching assistants they need for that particular year.
Mm.
Okay, so if let's say they have enough funds that they say, okay, we need about 10 teaching assistants and we can fund them for the next 5 years, that means that we can admit 5 students, right? Now, what happens is that sometimes they give these 5 admissions out, but then there are about 10 other students who are very well qualified, but they don't have enough money to bring them into the program. So what they do is that they send out the admission offer to the first 5 that they can fund, right? And then the other 10 that are good, but there's no money, they give them offer, but they don't tell them that there is funding. They'll give you an admission without funding. Okay. In that case, when any of the 5 students who got the funding decide not to come to Purdue, then they bump you up and then they give you admission with funding. Okay. So sometimes it takes a little
Okay.
bit, it takes a while. They are hoping to get a response from the people who have gotten the admission with the funding. And if those people accept it, then technically you have to find a way to pay yourself because they don't have money, they don't have admission, they don't have a fund to support you. Okay. Or they don't have any PI who is willing to bring into their lab to work because they don't also have funding. So it depends on the university system and how much money is available. Okay. So in your case, if the funding is coming from the university, they know you are qualified for the program. That is a good thing. So you know that you are a good student. You meet the criteria for the university. I applaud you for that. Now, wait on the funding. If they didn't give you right away, that means that they are waiting to see maybe there's somebody they are waiting to get donations from to the university that they can use to fund, or they are waiting for the
Okay.
other student to respond. If somebody denies their admission, then they can bump you up and give you the information on the funding. I think that's what's probably happened. So I would, if that's the issue, I'll tell you to wait because the university knows everything here is systematic. Nobody has forgotten about you. Like, just remain calm. Don't send any follow-up email. Just be patient. However, if it's an external institution, I will advise you to follow up and let them know that, hey, I've gotten the admission. The semesters are about to begin like 2 or 3 months. I haven't heard anything from the funding. Can you please update me on that? So these are the two scenarios. I don't know which one you are in, but yeah. And if it's Texas University, it may probably be a public institution, and state institution, they get some money from the state and other private donors. So they are not very sure of how much budget they have now and how much they can fund. So they are kind of like putting things in order.
Right. Thank you. So I think that was the last question. If I missed anything, it's probably because my connection is playing up here. But yes, so Dr. Enoch, thank you so much for joining us. Even though it was such a an impromptu. Thanks for stepping in and helping us with such insights on this. For our viewers too, thank you for sticking with it. I think we've gone over the hour that we normally plan it for. However, some most of the time when we go over the hour, it is because there's a lot of questions that needs answering, and I've got Dr. Blessing here. I feel very blessed today, like I'm getting
You
around.
are blessed. You are blessed with blessing on the line.
Bless, I know, and Enoch. I mean, come on, yeah, it's a blessed evening. So thank you for joining. But yeah, we've spent a whole lot of time. However, Dr. Blessing, if you can, give us your last words, because you were with us and you were answering a lot of questions there. So what you've noticed in the comment session, give us, like,
Okay.
your best advice to people looking out for study abroad opportunities and that. But with you two, I think, yeah, we need a date so that we can have an event with both of you on it, and then we can have a whole hour talking about
Oh,
this topic.
thank you very much. Afia, I'm really grateful to be here. And I mean, my learned
Thanks for
colleague,
joining.
Dr. Enoch, was, making so much submissions, and I really could relate to most of the things that is what he's saying. I mean, I've been listening to most of your submissions. I mean, not today, but then I realized that there are some days that you used to organize this kind of program with Dr. Enoch, and I mean, you guys are really doing great, and I must commend
Thank
you for
you.
that.
She's the brain behind it. She's the brain
Please,
behind it.
I I don't take credit for anything.
Okay, so as you all know, my name is Blessing Jumamenu, and I'm here in Canada with the University of Saskatchewan, and I'm doing I would say, my second PhD with the University of Saskatchewan, and also an
Second
assistant
P. Oh,
instructor with the First Nation University of Canada as well. I mean, just fast forward, just to add up to some of the things that my brother Dr. Enoch was saying. I could say that, I mean, regarding the scholarship, I think that was the aspect that I heard, that there are some students who will receive admission notice regarding that
mm,
they've been accepted, but then the scholarship will not be in. I mean, based on the time, or maybe the time that they are expecting. What I would say is that here in Canada, one thing that I've noticed is that the admissions mostly comes around December. Okay, so if the chances are, if you are being selected for the program or for that particular course, then there's a possibility that they are going to give you funding, not a scholarship, but then
okay.
funding. Okay?
Mm,
So the funding, probably they will just give you the dates that, okay, by February you should expect something from the university, because in the university everything takes time. They follow that sort of protocol. You get it? So I mean, there's not only you that they are dealing with, right? They are dealing with a lot of students, and I could also attest to it that there are some instances that they put some students on hold. You get it? Because of visa processes and other things, some students are not able to just to come. So based on that, then they get to see maybe some of the students that they've put in them on hold, and then they will try to give them the funding. I get. So maybe if, like, for instance, my class like this, my graduate chair indicated to us that 100 students applied for the program, but then they picked just five. And with the five that they picked,
wow.
the five that
Out of the
out
100.
of the 100, and the five that they picked, one guy wasn't able to come because of visa issues. You get it? So based on
Mm,
that, they give the opportunity to someone else for him or her to just to also join us. You get it? So I mean, regarding that one, it's also specific based on maybe some of the institutions, how things are. But then I could also add to what Dr. Enoch said, that it's very true that in most of the universities they have their own requirement, their own policies, and how they go by things. But then if he has received the admission, he should just hold on. And I always say that uh, try to just keep on praying. I mean, I'm a strong believer of faith, so you just keep on praying, and then wait whilst, I mean, they try to fast track things in that way. So just to run up, at least you guys have talked so much, and just jumping. I'm at work actually, but then I have to just quickly jump on, and then I
yeah,
mean,
thank
We
you
know how
so
appreciate
it
you.
much.
We appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you
That's
so
that's the
much.
that's the F4 effect. She knows how to get
I
it.
know. That's very true. That's very true. So I'll try as much as possible, and then we can settle maybe one of these days. I mean, the time that works for you, respectfully.
Yeah, and it will be very nice because we have a US perspective, a Canada perspective, and I would just add a spin of the UK. So it would be very nice to have you both and myself on here to have an event like that,
Very
talking
well.
about the great and that. Yeah.
Very
So
well.
thank you so
Very
much.
well. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
And I appreciate you leaving work and joining.
Yeah.
I feel blessed. These doctors, two
Yeah.
PhDs.
Okay.
Hey, I need to hurry up and join the doctorship.
Oh. uh,
No, this
okay.
is
Thank
good.
you very
That's
much.
why
Thank
thank you
you.
for all that
Thank
you
you.
do, and
Thank you. Yeah.
this is very, very
Thank you.
helpful. There's a lot of information out there that can help students and prospective students that are applying, and keep doing what you're doing. And we are always going to be in the background to support you. I'm glad.
Thank
I'm
you.
excited about the quality of the speakers that you bring are people who have like real experience, who have lived it.
Hmm.
And we are doing this for free to help people because we've navigated it. Like you always say, we all don't have to suffer, right? So we are here to
Exactly.
share
I
the
don't
truth.
encourage
We
suffering.
are
We
here to
know
share the
grief or
truth.
suffering.
Reach out to us after
All
this
right.
session. We are always
Hmm.
available. I've had a few people send me their CVs and SOPs to review through you. So
That's
thank you
good.
for all you do and all that you're trying to help
I'm glad to
our
hear.
community. I really do appreciate that.
Yeah.
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 And
And I
also,
do appreciate you all helping out, because if I invite and you don't turn up, it will only discourage me. But yeah, so thank you to you all as well. I feel like I've got really mighty muscles of big brothers behind me. So please, if you're listening and you need those that are well versed, like these are PhD holders, they've been through the whole process, and they would have first-hand experience of um the help that you need. They've probably gone through it or even know people that have gone through it. And like keep saying, you're not alone. The delays, the rejections, there's a lot of people that have been through it. So you're not alone. You're not cursed. It's just not your time, and your time will come so far as you don't give up. So thank you all for joining me. Thank you.
and
It's been
also,
an hour, 30 minutes, and I still see people online. So
okay.
thank you all.
I just also wanted to add a little
Mhm.
bit. Like, I'm also once again
Mhm.
to Dr. Enoch. I mean, I've been seeing him online speaking, and then I mean, we've not been able to just have discussions like that. So it's really, really, I'm really, really grateful to see him right here. I mean, we're also trying to inculcate knowledge into other people as well. And I mean, there's um one or two things that I also want to share before maybe you draw the curtains.
Yes,
Currently, we are just
go on.
planning on, let's say, the students who are in Canada, like, African students who are in Canada. We are trying to make sure that we organize ourselves, not only in Canada, but then even in the States. I mean, we are trying to set out a committee. So I've actually have a discussion with Dr. Isaac. So, I mean, I will try to also let him know that a few, and then also Dr. Enoch, you guys can also be on the committee, and then we can try and then see how possible best at least we can make these meetings happen, so that I mean the people we are helping them, we can get that opportunity to meet. We all meet,
Mhm.
if it's in Canada, if it's in the States, or maybe if it's in the UK. I mean, we can just all meet together, and then, because I mean, you guys might think we are just doing it, but then we are really touching lives, and there are a
Yes.
lot of people out there who are
Mhm.
very, very grateful.
Mhm.
And I mean, it's a time for us to just meet. And even if it's going to be like every year, I mean, we can meet once, like sort of like a conference or something, where we
Yeah.
can connect very well. And I mean, get to meet each other, socialize. And then, I mean, if there are other opportunities in terms of job prospects, we can also share. And then going forward, we can help each other together, because I mean, it's a teamwork, and the teamwork makes the dream what?
Mhm.
Makes the dream happen, right? So I
Yeah.
believe that is how, or maybe something that I want to bring to you guys for you to also think about. So I'll be also reaching out after the discussion with Dr. Isaac, and then you can also join us on the committee board and see how
This
to
is
go
good.
forward.
Yeah.
So thanks very much.
That's a good initiative. That's a good initiative. I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like it too. Yeah. So if you're still with us, I still see people online. Thank you so much. Connect with Dr. Isaac. Connect with Dr. Enoch. Connect with Dr. Blessing. Soon to be Dr. Ifwa. Connect
Okay.
with us, and
Soon to be okay.
and let's keep going. You're not
We will
alone.
give you a honorable doctorate. We will
Exactly, exactly.
Thank you
we will
so
confer
much.
that
You are a
on
doctor
Thank
you.
you
right
so
now. You are not even not soon to be. You are a doctor right now. So
I know, right?
Hey, thank you.
Doctor by
I'm
affiliation. Yes.
surrounded with a lot of doctors. Wow. Yeah. So thank you guys for staying with us.
a
Thank you for
pleasure.
spending your weekends with us. And like Dr. Blessing said, we are touching lives out there. Some people share these messages and that I don't normally do it because it's for me, it's more of keep going, and that's all. That is it. I always say it's not the many people, even if it's just one person who's learned something from any of the events. That is all. One individual, one mindset at a time, and gradually we will all make it. Gradually we will all meet our targets, our goals, our visions are valid, our dreams are valid. Yes, it will come with struggles, it will come with a lot of stumbling blocks and stuff. But the thing is, you have the likes of Dr. Enoch. I know your story. Dr. Blessing, I'm yet to hear your story. Dr. Isaac also shared a bit of it. Like, there's so many people out there that are doing great now that did not have a great start. So, that alone is to tell you that you can also do it. And this is what we're here for. Share the knowledge, share the struggles, share the understanding, share the information for free to let you know that you can also do it. And we're here to go through it with you. Some of us, we had to go through it alone, but you don't have to. We're opening ourselves to you. Do get connected. We will try our possible best. Like I always say, if I can't in any way, I will signpost you. God being so good, I have a lot of doctors. So please, I'll give them for you for free. Doctors of doctors of doctors. So God bless you. Have a good weekend and stay tuned for next week. There's also another event talking about scholarship funding and all with another great LinkedIn personality. So thank you so much. Don't want to take more of your time. So thanks for joining and have a good evening. Be safe out there and do not give up. Continue with the application. Take care and it's bye for now.
Right.